Yeah, it's gonna be nasty.
Just got my snow tires off yesterday.
That's why it's snowing. I'm gonna blame
Today
you.
I'm getting my wife's snow tires off.
Yeah, I haven't got mine
I guess
off
you're
yet.
not. I guess you're not going anywhere tomorrow, Joe.
No.
You're going to be
No.
stuck at home. You're going to be
This is it.
stuck at home, buddy.
Yeah.
That's why I have my snow tires on, because I learned my lesson the last time this happened.
Yeah, I booked my appointment over a month ago. And she said, you could come in way before the 24th. And I said, yeah, but I don't want to.
It's true. I can remember a few times it's snowing at end of April.
Yep. Or early May.
It's true. Yeah, I usually book it from mid-May.
Doesn't usually stay on the ground though. It usually
No,
leaves
it
pretty
melts.
Yeah, I
No,
think
but-
that's what it's gonna be like tomorrow. So it's going to basically snow from early morning tomorrow right through till Thursday early morning.
quickly.
But
Wow.
Thursday, the temperature is going to go up to 7, which means it'll melt. And then on Friday, it's going to be sunshine, blue skies, and 13 degrees. So yeah, just, hunker down for a day and everybody will be fine.
I guess we'll have to close the pool for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Welcome to Ontario.
Rebecca, are you into your tiny home yet?
Not yet, no. Not yet, and thankfully not with the snow coming.
Rebecca's going to be our guest in a few weeks from her tiny home, telling us about her tiny home she's living in.
Nice.
Okay.
You should be on TV, Rebecca, with that. All these shows about tiny homes.
Yeah, everyone keeps telling me I should make a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
You
For
should.
sure.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
really
I
should.
know. My partner Dan, he's a zookeeper, so they're like, how cool would that be? Like, he could strap a GoPro on his chest and go around at work, and he comes home to your tiny home. I was like, when you make it sound like that, it sounds like a TLC show.
Exactly.
Call it Our Tiny Ontario Home. I bet there's no other show like that.
Is it going to be a roving tiny home, Rebecca, or is it going to be like situated somewhere?
So it is situated. So essentially what we did was we converted like a travel trailer. So it was already had the structure. So we converted it for like long-term living. So we're putting solar panels on the roof. We have holding tanks for all of our stuff and water and
Cool.
and it's parked. So in Ontario, as I know, as a surveyor, it's very hard to get certain privileges to park places. So the easiest thing for us to do was to park in like a cottage resort, somewhere where they already have similar structures. That's what we did.
Very cool.
Excellent. Okay, well, it's 7:33, so we may as well get rolling. Welcome to our guests. We've got Jennifer on the line, an incoming Rotarian or returning Rotarian. And we also have Sherry, who's going to get a more fulsome introduction from you, Johanna, shortly. I think those are our only guests right now. I saw Amy Simpson, one of our other speakers, trying to get in. I'm sure she'll return. I didn't get myself anything to toast with, but we'll begin with our toasts just the same. First, we'll begin with the toast to Her Majesty, to the Queen.
The Queen.
And to Canada,
Canada.
Canada,
And,
and to Rotary International.
Rotary International.
Now we're trying something new out following last week, and I'm going to pause here just for a second as Andrew Saway joins, another guest. His audio is just connecting. It's one of those. So last week we tried out a land acknowledgement and got a call from or an email from a member asking if it's something that maybe we should try out on a more regular basis. I polled the board, and the vast majority thought wasn't a bad idea to try. Some thought, maybe not every week, but certainly supported the idea. So in the face of that support, we're going to roll with it, see how it works here. Andrew, welcome to the meeting. Thank you for joining us again. Folks, Andrew Saway is another prospective Rotarian. So on to our land acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge that here in Bowmanville, we are on the territory covered by the Williams Treaty, and that land is the traditional territory of the Mississauga of First Nations, Mississauga of Scugog Island First Nation. We offer our gratitude to Indigenous peoples for their care of the land, their teachings about our earth and our relations. All right, with that, we go over to Chris Velasco for our normal invocation.
Thank you, President Steve. Morning, everyone. As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to our community and the world. Keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, let's continue to exert our efforts in those areas and those ideals upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world.
Thank you, Chris. That's another good one. I like it. Secretary Pauline, do we have any birthdays or anniversaries?
President Steve, there are no birthdays. There are no wedding anniversaries, but very special member, past president, ADG Gord Wallace, is celebrating 14 years of service above cell.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Gord. Thank you, Pauline. And we may as well point out, Pauline spilled the beans on Facebook the other day. You are 52 years in Canada now?
I am, yeah.
Well, congratulations, and we're the better for it. Certainly Rachel is. All right. Okay, with that, it's time for the main part of our program, and our speaker, Johanna, would you like to introduce Sherry to us all, please?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to introduce Sherry Colborne to you this morning. Sherry is a Canadian entrepreneur with decades of experience in Ontario's high-tech sector. She is not only a CEO at the Spark Center, she is also the president of Synergy Lab, where I work. So happens to be a colleague and a great mentor of mine. So I'll let her take it away because she's going to explain more about her wonderful life, I think, and what she's doing over on the East End here in Durham.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here and to be able to give you a little insight into what we're doing at Spark and Synergy. So maybe just a little bit of quick background. As Johanna said, I spent a lot of time in Canada's high-tech sector, a couple of decades actually, but eventually I left Canada and went to the Middle East and lived in the Middle East with my husband for 4 years in a place called Muscat, Oman. Most people don't know anything about Oman. It's kind of the jewel of the Middle East. It's like Switzerland of the Middle East. It's very neutral territory. The previous Sultan was a huge peacekeeper. And so we had a really wonderful view of, what it was like to live and innovate in the Middle East. My husband himself was the CEO of an innovative company in the telco field. And I went over there originally to just assist him setting up a sales office, since I decided I would take a little sabbatical from entrepreneuring and corporate Canada. And anyway, I fell in love with the region, but what being on the outside of Canada gave me a view of, and this is why I think traveling internationally or living internationally is such an incredible experience, is it allows you to look at your country from the outside in, and it makes you recognize just the incredible gifts that we have here in Canada. But it also made me realize that, around the world, there are innovators just like there are in Canada who want nothing more than to, have a good lifestyle. They want to have, their families close and well-educated and protected. And so when I came back, I was recruited for the role at Spark. And when they kind of popped up on my radar, I was like, Durham region, I'm Toronto born and raised. So, the old saying with the people from Toronto, there's nothing except Toronto. I fortunately did not suffer so because I left Toronto when I was in my late 20s and moved out to the Waterloo region. So I had a good view of Ontario, but I hadn't really had a lot of experience with Eastern Ontario. So I started doing some research and was really, really just blown away is the only word I can use to realize how much innovation was going on in Durham region and east, right out to the Quebec border. Anyway, it got me very excited, hence why I'm at the helm of Spark Center. But because I had this international lens, I recognized when I got home that although we did have a lot of great innovators, startup companies, small and medium businesses really trying to thrive in the area, what I realized is that if we were going to, if we're going to hold our own against a region like the Toronto Waterloo corridor, which is a huge innovation, like world-renowned innovation corridor, we needed to not just grow our homegrowns, but we needed to bring people in to get to that critical mass where now being in the Eastern corridor is really something that people make a conscious effort to go to, as opposed to, just kind of land in. And so we created this program called Pioneer, and it was really to attract foreign founders who were desirous to leave their home countries, bring their intellectual property and their innovations to Canada and set up their roots so that they could grow their businesses and bring their families and establish a new life. The program was very, very successful. So we, I think it was August of last year, we spun out what is now known as Synergy Lab, and that is Johanna's, my right-hand lady who looks after everything over at Synergy. And what the opportunity that it creates for us as we're sort of developing this Eastern Ontario Innovation Corridor is it allows us to take this two-pronged approach where we have internationals that are coming in, and some, believe it or not, Rotarians, but Rotarians in their own countries. And then we have our locals who we are also sort of partnering with Rotary in the Durham region to bring some of these young innovators into the Rotarian community. Many of them are looking for ways to really connect. Being a founder of a startup is kind of a lonely business, and you don't always have people, that you can talk to and really just kind of share, your struggles with. And I got introduced to Rotary through one of our advisors, a gentleman by the name of Frank Audino, who's an investor. He's a Rotarian. He's just a formidable human being, to be honest. And I was really excited, and Frank and I, of course, were kind of brainstorming ideas. And I said, there's this wonderful opportunity for the Spark group of companies to create a more established relationship with Rotary, because Rotary is an international organization and we are an international organization. And when we bring our internationals in, one of the things that they want to do early on is really get their feet down and get orientated and, feel like they're part of their new community. And if I, just a little aside, one of the things that I noticed when I was, traveling and living abroad was there's a huge focus on family and community in these other countries, definitely more so than in North America, 100% hands down. And so giving our international entrepreneurs the opportunity to come to a new country and then connect with a community that allows them to kind of get their feet down and get connected and, feel like they're part of something bigger, I think is just an incredible opportunity. And so, my pitch to all of you, because as a startup entrepreneur, I'm always pitching somebody about something. So my pitch to you all is that I think that Rotary is an incredible organization. I think there's a wonderful opportunity for the Spark group of companies to bring new Rotarians to your community. so that, you know, you're growing, we're certainly growing right now. Just to give you a size of the magnitude of the kind of intake we're doing. Right now, we have 407 new Canadians who will be arriving in our region. And when I say our region, I mean anywhere from Durham through to Kingston at the moment. Those 407 new Canadians will bring usually a spouse and one child on average. I mean, some have more, some have less, but on average, 3 individuals per. And if you consider the GDP of Ontarians, we are talking about well above 50 million, contribution to the province of Ontario in GDP alone. And this is really all Eastern Ontario. So I think there's a great opportunity. They need community. We need their intellectual property. I don't know if you saw the federal budget the other day, but lots of money being spent on innovation. One of those elements is going to be the retention and commercialization of intellectual property, very important for countries like Canada. And so these internationals are bringing their intellectual property from their home countries to Canada. And then typically what they do is they wait to patent their intellectual property here so that they have more favorable, intellectual property protections than they would get in their home country. Gosh, I don't know what else to tell you. We're kind of running at the speed of sound. We're growing. Our organization has probably grown, gosh, like 6x over the last year. So I'd be happy to take any questions. It's hard for me to know how much you know about startups and innovation. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask away and I'll answer your questions.
Okay,
go ahead.
well, I see Joe's hand up. So Joe, go ahead.
Can you, hi Sherry, welcome. Thanks very much for coming. Can you talk a little bit about a couple of, I don't know if you can do this, if it's confidential, but can you point out a couple of companies that that we can look forward to seeing in Durham?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, one of our star companies, they're called Recovery Tech. Very timely. They use a virtual reality and augmented reality platform to help rehabilitate people that have suffered with strokes. This is proving to be an incredibly effective way to enhance the recovery from strokes. They have just published a clinical trial where, because of COVID, I'm sure you have heard that a number of young people sort of in that 30, 40, 50 age group, one of the interesting side effects of COVID was that they were suffering with these mini, I think they call them TIAs, that they're these small strokes, and they can be quite debilitating. So they actually did quite a little pivot and took their technology to, they're actually from Iran, and they studied a group within Iran who had suffered with these mini strokes, and they have replicated that study in partnership with McMaster University. And that paper, it's just been published, and they will be presenting that paper at an upcoming summit around, healthcare, which I think it's a Canadian healthcare summit. So they're ready to come. They're waiting on work permits to get here. They're doing everything they can to get here sooner than later. But that would be one example. Another example that I have, which is from a previous cohort, they're already here and they're landed and they've got their permanent residency, is a company called Cavaras. They are a Brazilian based technology company that produces robotics for municipal maintenance. So think of, sidewalk inspections, snow removal, things of that nature. they have this, I call it a mini rover. It's actually, it's probably, I don't know, about 5 feet kind of by 3 feet high. Anyway, of course, it is autonomously, it has autonomous capability, but they're just in the process of getting into some pilots now with the city of Oshawa to create a data set for sidewalk inspection that'll happen this spring. So, just really, really incredible innovations that will, really benefit all of us.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Chris Christodoulou, you're next.
Thank you, Steve. Sherry, how do you identify these individuals? Do they contact you, or do you go out and search for them?
Well,
And,
yes.
and what orientation do you give them?
Yeah, so good question. So we, strangely enough, we do not market our program yet. We're almost afraid to do so because the demand is pretty brisk as it is. We work with a number of agents and business consultants who have, been reached out to by international companies who wish to immigrate. And so sometimes they're immigration attorneys, sometimes they're just business coaches who are kind of working with them. But what we do in terms of our orientation is we conduct a 2-week program. This is the Pioneer program. The Pioneer program takes them on a very intense and deep dive into what it takes to do business in Canada, whether that is the legal applications like the, incorporation, whether that be provincially or federally, what are the pros and cons? We talk about cultural nuances. Of course, people are coming from different cultures. They don't necessarily know our own cultural nuances. And the best example I can give you of that is when we did this program in person, we had this big mixed group of people come and hit Durham, city of Oshawa. We had coordinated with our restaurateurs, and they had, meal chits so that when they went to the restaurants, they didn't actually have to pay cash. We were taking care of all that with them. But simple things like, queuing up, I think that's a very British, concept of queuing in line and politely waiting your turn. People that come in from a lot of different countries, that's a foreign concept. It's in their countries, it's more of, every man and woman for themselves. You just got to get to the front of the line. So teaching them some of the cultural nuances of being in Canada. We also go into a very deep dive on the business plans, what is required in the business plan, market research, establishing your financial projections, sales, how are they going to get traction in the market here in order to grow their business? What kind of capital are they bringing? Is it sufficient? We review their business plans to make sure that they have sufficient capitalization. So all of those elements, and we kind of cram this into a 2-week program. Right now, it's completely virtual, of course, because of COVID, but typically we would do it in person. So they would fly in to the region. Wonderful, because of course it creates a lot of, it's almost like tourism dollars in the sense, I guess you'd call it, because they come in, they go to hotels, they, eat in restaurants. And then we do that essentially twice a month is how we're running the program. So and we have about 30 people in each cohort. So you can see how quickly that exponentially grows when you've got 60 new founders coming a month to a region.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Sherry?
See, Jennifer's got her hand up.
Does she? Sorry, Jennifer, I didn't see you there.
Oh, that's all right. Sherry, we know that doing business anywhere can be really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when these entrepreneurs come over if they do all the right things and they're just not one of the lucky ones, and unfortunately their business doesn't take off? What happens at that point?
Yeah, so great question, and I'm really happy to say that. So our international founders are incredibly well educated. They are, and they're not young. They're typically above the age of 35, and probably up to around maybe 50. So they're not, they're not kids. They've got tremendous tenure in their field. They're often double degreed. And the good news is, although we are doing everything we can to prop them up and make sure that they are successful, the good news is that if they are not, they will get absorbed into the Canadian talent pool. And I don't know how much you know about where we're at with our talent pool, but we have serious shortages of technical and innovative talent. And all of these companies who are our local companies, who have found success and are growing and are, scaling their businesses, are desperately in search of talent. So there's almost, there's like no success that comes out of this. We either pull them into companies that really need their talent, or we hopefully can grow them and they create the jobs and for their own companies.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's a great answer. A lot of information.
Excellent. Well, Sherry, we can't thank you enough for your time today.
Thank you.
Really interesting learning more about Synergy Labs. Johanna has given us a little bit of a peek into it. I know that there's a pilot going on with Whitby Sunrise to integrate some of your clients into the Rotary community, and we're certainly interested in learning more about that, so we could participate as well. With that, you're welcome to stay on and enjoy the rest of the meeting. I do know that you're busy, so it's okay if you drop, but we'd love to have you stay. You choose.
Sounds good. Actually, I have a little bit more time, so I think I'm going to hang out for just a little bit more.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much. Okay. And with that, we're on to Happy Bucks. I'm going to inject here. I got a vaccine appointment for Thursday. Normal is within sight now, so I can't tell you how flippin' happy I am. It's so good. So I'll put 20 into the pot on that. Do we have any other Happy Bucks? I don't see any hands. All right. Well, listen, that's happy enough, I guess. All right. Next, we have a career day. We're going to hear from our incoming president, Amy Barney, about the life of a funeral director. Sounds fun. All right. Amy and Joe, I think you're going to do this in an interview fashion, same as you did with Gord, right?
Yes, indeed.
Proceed.
Thank you, President Steve, and thank you, Amy. And it is always interesting when you meet someone for the first time and they ask, hey, what do? You could say teacher, mechanic, accountant, cop, a number of things. I'm involved in bringing new companies to Durham region, any number of those things. You probably get a nod of recognition, but I can only imagine the reaction that Amy Barney gets when she says, I'm a funeral director. She's been with Northcutt Elliott here in Bowmanville since 2002 and is someone who many, many, many people in our area know and have relied on for many things over the years. She's the latest in our Career Day talks with Rotarians about the work they're doing here in town. And Amy, thanks for sharing this with us this morning. Amy, you have a degree in sociology and religious studies from McMaster. Briefly, because I know there are a number of twists along the way. How did you go from that to being a funeral director?
So I'm going to do the short version because, as Joe and I chatted earlier, I can really talk about my work and how I've gotten here. In high school, I wanted to be a funeral director, and my dad's best friend was a funeral director, and basically talked me out of it, referring to say it wasn't really women's work. I will get back to that. So I went to McMaster, which was my was a goal as well. I wanted to go into medicine. McMaster decided that wasn't the route for me. So I ended up switching my major to sociology. Halfway through, I realized that funeral services was the place for me. So the reason my minor is in religious studies is all of the courses surrounding grief, death, dying, bereavement all fall under religious studies. So because I had so many of them, I was able to have a minor as well. So I have my honors degree. And then in 2000, I went to Humber College, which is the only school in Ontario that does funeral services in English. Anyway, and so I ended up there, loved it, did my apprenticeship. Going back to what my uncle had said about women's work, I think what he meant, it's not that it's not, women can't do it. There is a physical aspect of my job that you have to be able to do. You know, I have to be able to lift bodies, carry them up and down stairs.
Uh-oh, Amy's internet strikes again. Let's give her a second here.
Well, while she's paused, I've got a challenge for her if she's interested.
Okay.
See if she can carry me up the stairs.
Okay. 300 pounds of fun is how Gord has often described himself. So
I knew Gord was going to go there with that one. As soon as I heard the word challenge.
No, I could drop you down the stairs, Gord.
push him.
I've got a thing called a saw. Yeah.
That would be dropping down the stairs again, Don. You forgot the again part.
All right,
Amy left.
We lost Amy. Let's give her just 30 seconds. We've got a little bit of time here. If she doesn't join quickly, we'll switch gears and go to our second Amy in our agenda. We're full of Amy's today. So.
2 Amy's this morning. We were just at the part where she was told it wasn't women's work because there were 2 heavy bodies.
Yeah.
I guess bodies get heavier when they're dead.
Unconscious. Yeah.
Yeah.
No assistance.
Well,
I just want to say
dead weight.
Oh.
There was a couple of us that were on the call yesterday with Oshawa Club in Moscow East. It was a pretty awesome call for anybody that was on that.
I've
It
heard
was
it.
truly
Fantastic.
amazing.
Yeah.
Felt like a small world.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, she might be having larger problems with her internet if she's not joined back right now. So next, we have a bit of a shake up to our community report. It's a continuation of the Joe Solway radio show. An interview. We have Amy Simpson joining us, and I understand that Joe came across Amy doing some good deeds down in the valley, which will please Lloyd very much. And
here they are.
Amy,
So here they are.
The club, Amy, and we would look forward to hearing more. Go ahead, guys.
Sorry, guys. So on Sunday, I was out for some social resistance exercise in the Bowmanville Creek Valley. I saw lots of folks doing the same, but one family was not walking along the path, but they were literally crawling along the bank of the creek. I was curious and stopped to ask them what they were doing, and they showed me, and we took this picture. And that's Amy Simpson on the left. Her daughters Ella and Leah and her dad Wayne. Her mom was there too, but I guess she didn't want to be in the picture. And in Amy's hand is a ball of snarled fishing line. So it turns out that they all live in Whitby and that Amy's a real estate agent with an office here in Bowmanville. And they do this work at creeks all over the region, but especially in Bowmanville. And since we were supposed to have our own watershed cleanup, but it's been canceled due to COVID, I asked Amy here to tell us about hers. Hi, Amy, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, everyone.
So where'd you get the idea to go around creeks cleaning up fishing line?
So we go to the Bowmanville Creek quite frequently. We usually try to go to see the fish jump. And we've been spending a lot of time there. I saw my kids when they were about 3 years old. They didn't want to get their boots wet. So I was like, okay, this won't do. That's the whole purpose of boots. So we spend a lot of time at the creeks looking for crayfish and frogs and trying to catch minnows and stuff. But I noticed because of the fish migrating through the Bowmanville Creek, especially, you see a lot of fishing line and lures that have been discarded across, either hooked or dropped. Like they get snagged and then they snap off and then they're left behind. So we pick them up because we're worried about seeing wildlife, animals, or even people walking dogs down there, getting the hooks caught or the line tangled around their feet or whatever. So. Mhm.
And you come from a fishing family, don't you? So you know kind of about all this stuff about what you're seeing and what you're finding.
Yeah, my dad competes in tournaments, bass tournaments. Mhm.
You're in that picture. Your dad, he has a paper bag full of the stuff that you collected that day. How do you spot it? You know, it's pretty fine stuff, and I wouldn't see it. How do you spot it?
We have a good eye, I guess, but it in the sunlight, it's easier to see. It's got a little bit, it glistens a little bit in the sunlight, so you can kind of spot it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, you told me about the thing 2 years ago. It was you told me, or maybe one of your kids bragged or something.
Yeah.
and it was about the fact that you actually rescued some trout from the pond there where all the ducks live. And I'm just going to show that, and then you can tell us about it. So let me just see if I can do this here. Share, and we're going to start now. That's you with a fish. With a
Yeah.
trout.
So they kind of swim up. You can kind of see where I've walked through. They swim up any path they can find to spawn. And I think what likely happened is the water levels raise quite high in the wintertime when the snow all melts, and maybe we'll get a rainstorm. So the water levels will raise and the fish will think that that's the path that they need to take. So they got up into that pond, and it was so shallow, you could just see their fins on, like, above the water level. Their faces, like their snouts, were under the water, so they were able to stay alive, but you knew that they weren't going to stay alive for much longer if they stayed there. So we were able to pull up, I think it was 4 in the end, 4 fish that we pulled out of there, and then let them go in the creek.
And they're big. These, how big was that one you had in your arms? Like 30
Try not to tell fish stories. I think that it was around 12 pounds, but they're heavy and slippery.
Wow, I can imagine. Hey, Lloyd, you want to comment on this? Are they fish up in there, get up there all the time? Lloyd is with Valleys 2000, so he knows all about this stuff.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of it, actually. It's usually too silted in for them to move in there. So that's it's A, cool that they got in there, and B, cool that they got out.
So I got a little bit on that. A couple things. Amy, thanks. I'm a former Valleys 2000 guy. So fish getting into that pond has been a problem for some time. The Bowmanville Creek Anglers Association, I think it was, there are 2 organizations now. I forget which one it is, the 2 groups of fishermen. But I think it was Pete Cito and his group of friends led this effort. They put a little grate in the culvert that was there to try and stop them from coming in. But I think it needs to be maintained from time to time. The ice that kind of shifts over, from time to time will open up the passage. So that's probably what happened there. Another thing is, Pete and his group for a while had these great white tubes, right, with a hole in the top, and they were labeled as places where you could put your fishing line. I haven't seen them there this spring yet. I don't know when they went away. It's a shame. That was meant to cut down on exactly what you and your family were working on. But
I do think they were both there. I haven't gone I went to the parking lot, the main parking lot, and I do think that there's one there, but it looks like people have just shoved garbage and stuff into them.
Probably.
So, yeah.
May not be an issue this year because I don't think there's going to be a fishing season. So.
Well, I still see people fishing. I don't know.
Well, it's not, you'd only see them south of the 401. If they're north of the 401 right now, they're poaching. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So one last question, Amy. You do this, like your kids help you do this. What are they learning? How important is it for them to take part in stuff like this?
My hope for them is that you do, it feels like a little task to save one fish or to pick up fishing line or hooks when you see them. But my hope is that they can kind of see, you know, if all of us do small things, they can add up to big things. So, and to have respect and care for wildlife.
Thanks very much, Amy. Thanks for telling us this story. Steve, I've been touting Rotary to Amy as she is a Bowmanville business resident.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining. Really great to get to know you a little bit here. So I guess we're going to flip back to our second Amy, or our first Amy, I guess. Amy Barney, are you back with us?
I think so.
Okay.
I might not put my camera on because my technology is obviously crap.
So this is a true radio show then, I guess. Maybe I should turn my video off too. So you were telling us about the fact that it was considered man's work because of the heavy bodies. Did you want to finish with that story or?
Yeah, so I think basically, I think the other thing that my uncle was sort of mentioning was part of the reason why it's hard to be a female funeral director is this is not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 kind of job. I miss a lot of things. I often would pick up my children from the sitter and bring them home to a sitter. Obviously Len works shifts, and so I'm often there on weekends. I miss birthday parties, I miss recitals. So I think that's what more he was getting to, is it's hard to be a mother and a funeral director. So not that it's not women's work, but it's hard to be both roles.
COVID has affected everybody. I can imagine it's really affected you guys a lot. How has COVID affected the work you do?
Well, I think the Queen sort of says it all. You know, the woman was sitting there by herself burying her husband. We see that a lot. We see a lot of families that would have done funerals that are choosing not to do funerals because who do you include? Who don't you include? The logistics of it is really difficult for those that do want to have services. You know, for us planning, okay, you can have 10 people at this time. Now we have to disinfect. We can have another 10 people. So that's hard. I think people are grieving harder because they're not getting the support from the community. You know, the whole point of visitation and funerals, it's not for the dead person, it's for the living. And when you don't get that, you know, you're not getting the support that you normally would from community and family and friends.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stress on funeral workers, not just directors, but anybody who works in that field. I know a couple of years ago, I came across a story, I sent it to you, about a group of funeral workers in Ottawa who started a support group because there were mental health issues that they just weren't being dealt with. Can you talk about the stress of the work you do, even outside of COVID? It's pretty stressful, isn't it?
It's a very stressful job. You know, it's not uncommon for funeral directors to not stay in the profession a long time because of it's a burnout situation. I'm very fortunate at Northcote Elliott that we are very much a family and we have crappy weeks. And when we have really crappy weeks, then we sometimes de-stress together because I can't take this home. You know, it's not fair to my family to bring the stress of that back to my house. So, you know, we do sometimes we'll all on a Friday night go out for dinner and, you know, just kind of, you know, complain about the week and then, you know, try and let it go and, you know, go from there. So every day there's a new family that we have to help. So you got to move on.
How do you see yourself, the role you play in the community? I said, you know, in the beginning, a lot of people know you and have been touched by you. What's your role in the community, you think?
So I think, especially because I'm not from here, when I moved to Bowmanville, I knew absolutely nobody, save for maybe a couple of people from Walkerton that were from Bruce to Pickering or Darlington. So I didn't know anybody. 20 years in, I know a lot of people now. I often laugh because Hannah, my smart ass 16-year-old, whenever we go, if I go to Metro, if I go to the grocery store, to Applefest, to Maplefest, I run into somebody that I know. When we're leaving, Hannah's always like, so who died in that family? And I'm usually, well, it started off with their mother, then their father, then an aunt, then an uncle, then a cousin. You know, you get to know families over time. And I am very blessed. I think it's an honor that I get to serve this community. I give it my best every day, and I'm thankful that I'm part of this community, and that at the end of the day, when I've had a family come back and say you've made it much easier, then I've done my job.
Well, thank you for all the great work you've done over the years.
And it is an honor to be here. And, I was given the opportunity to go back to Walkerton when I became a funeral director, and I chose not to. I didn't want to bury my friend's family. And I've been here long enough that now I'm burying my friends' families.
Oh. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, great to learn more about you, Amy. We've all come to love and respect you. So I really like this this feature. I wonder who's next.
Next is we have Don Gleed coming up in a few weeks. Don has been a huge contributor to Bowmanville, to the life and the business of Bowmanville.
Fantastic. Well, that'll be exciting. Although my driveway tells me that I know an awful lot about Don Gleed already. So,
Steve.
John? Yeah.
Can I make a quick comment about Amy?
Yes.
A close by neighbor of ours, her husband died suddenly, and the lady was in you can imagine, a hell of a state. And closest relatives were a long way away. And we put her in touch with Amy, and we could actually visibly see this woman become calm. So the effect that Amy has and how she deals with people in that situation is quite remarkable. So that was all I wanted to say.
It certainly takes a special type of person, doesn't it?
And John will attest that it's not a Monday to Friday job, because I was at his house on a Saturday night.
That's right.
Well, I think gone are the days of the dour undertaker. We need more Amy Barneys in the world. Okay, moving on, we have some announcements. Well, at least one big announcement here. I've got into the routine, everyone, of sending out, finally, I've got into the routine of sending out Mark Chipman's district governor update on a weekly basis. I didn't know I was supposed to be doing it, despite the fact that it said, please send your members up at the top. Need to read more carefully. In this week's, and I think in the past few weeks, it's included information about the district conference being planned for June 25th, 26th. A couple things. We're encouraging everyone to register for it. So on Saturday morning, June 26th, there's a 3-hour event planned. It's Zoom, and you can just follow the link to register for that. They're encouraging everyone that can. You're going to learn lots about Rotary and what's going on in the district. And then in the afternoon, they're hoping, goodness gracious, I hope we can do this, to have a community event. Something organized by the club during that afternoon, some sort of hands-on event, much of something like we've been doing out there already, whether it's a cleanup somewhere, we're helping out at Bethesda House or at Salvation Army or anywhere else. They're looking for us to get together and do that sort of thing. And if we register our event quickly, there's a $500 handout for that I suspect that we would probably direct towards the organization that we're helping, or maybe to pay for our volunteers, depending on how many people we can get together to have some lunch. So what I'm looking for from everyone is some ideas. Send me ideas about what you think we should be able to do towards the end of June, and what you think the club would be most visible doing. I'll take all comers on it. So send me an email over the next couple of days, and then we'll write up a submission, and I'll send it off on our behalf. It should include, send me a description of what you see, how we might use the funds, and then we would commit to having at least 10 members out, but I don't think that's ever a problem for our club. That was my one big announcement. Is there anything else that I should be announcing, folks? Johanna?
I just wanted to quickly say that the district conference will be hosted with Synergy Lab through our platforms. So it's opportune that you've brought it up, Steve, but
Fantastic.
it is attached to myself and Sherry here on the call today.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Okay.
Steve?
Yep.
I think there's some preliminary information out on the Canada Summer Jobs.
Yeah, there was an email that was supposed to have been sent. I couldn't find it though. Did you get it, Lyle, directly?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're in the order of about $27,000. We've been approved.
Great. So that means that we should be able to follow through with the Summer Squad
Yes.
program again. All right. So I will convene a meeting, and you know what? I'll send it out to the club. Anyone who wants to be involved in the organization or coordination of the Summer Squad program again this year, please join that meeting. Okay. And we'll put the team together, figure out, you know, when, our hiring strategy, and then who, and then we can reach out to our past squad members to see if any of them want to return. Okay. That's great news, Lyle. I'm excited about that. Can you forward that email to me, please? Okay. With that, we're down to our quote of the week. And Lloyd Rang, I'm not forgetting you this week.
Well, thank you, Steve. That's refreshing. So this is a quote from Lebanese American author Gibran Khalil Gibran, and it's really appropriate for Rotary. He wrote, "I slept and I dreamed that life is all joy. I woke and I saw that life is all service. I served and I saw that service is joy."
I can't think of a more appropriate quote. Thank you. Thank you, Lloyd. Okay. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, pauses for effect. Remembering the things that you say and you do are four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And with that, everyone have a great week and watch for the invite to the Summer Squad planning meeting.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye. Yeah.
I know.
Have a good week.
Have a good week.
Bye all.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
See you next
Bye.
Thursday.